Good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. I'm just changing my glasses so I can see better what I'm doing at close distance. And we're going to continue doing some more with this particular bracelet that I was making. She's made out of seed beads. I think I definitely prefer using Delica, but I've got seed beads, so we will continue. I was thinking about doing two poppies, one after the other. It is possible to do that in that length because I want 7.5 inches, so this needs to go to about 7 inches because the clasp is about 1/2 inch. Or I could just do blue on the side. Now I have a quandary. And that see if I can move this camera a little bit, get rid of that bloom from the light. The only way to do that really looks like is to push it further back. Nope. Now I get... oh dear. Not sure quite how to do that. Shall have a think about it. Just a minute. Right, that camera. Kind of needs to stand up a little bit. Oh, that's where that's what that is. Okay. That helps a little bit. Not much, because that's that one. No, we're still getting some off. Yeah, dear. Lighting is a real problem, especially since this camera's picking up lights in the ceiling. Which I can't do much about without sort of picking the camera right up like that, and it's still picking up flare. No, can't do much about that. Now that I've driven you all a little bit seasick moving the camera around, I've been meaning to sort of try and sort something out with this camera for the past few days, so I'm doing it now. That's that'll have to do for now. It will just have to do. Good evening. Anyway, so I am going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of blue, and then we'll do this pattern again. Remembering that that goes, yeah, oh well, it'll look somewhat like. Never quite worked out whether it's quicker to try and do more in a row or less in a row, just because, you know, one at a time like I'm doing here, or whether to do more in a go because you have to be a little bit more careful when you're doing multiple ones. Tension's a lot harder to maintain, and it's a bit harder to pull through because you're pulling thread through multiple beads at the same time. It doesn't take an awful lot of time just to, well, I suppose it's all adds up. And if you're bead weaving on a loom, then you do put lots in at one go and things get really fast that way. But I haven't particularly found a neat way, or seen a neat way, shall I say, because I haven't tried it yet, of finishing off something done on a loom. So what I'm going to do is do another of these poppy patterns. So I've got two of them on the same bracelet. So the first few rows of the pattern I'm doing is just blue. In fact, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start the poppy sooner rather than later. I'm not actually, I was going to put quite a bit of space between them, but I'm not going to do that. And actually, I don't know what Lady Zara thinks about it, I might actually turn it round so that the poppies are head to head. What does Lady Zara think about that? So they sort of face each other. One's that way, one's the other way. Like where you get two poppy heads on the top, rather than one being halfway around the bracelet. So I've got approval for that instantaneous design idea. Changing the design on the fly. So I will get to the end of this row and then I will get out some red beads. Because we'll use them on this pass coming back. Now then, I can do a mirror, or I can actually turn that around. I'll do a mirror, I think, just because that'll be easier to keep track of. And if I'm going to do a mirror, it means I've got to do another row of blue first. That light will get in my way, I think. So good evening everybody that's watching. How are you all doing today? Of course it's a weekend, it's a Saturday. And why did that bead not drop into the right? Oh, it's just wrapped its thread around things. There we go. What was I saying? Just you're all well out there and enjoying your Saturday evening here on Twitch. Thank you for dropping in and watching me. Is this bead weaving or bead sewing? Not quite sure. It's beadwork anyway. I'm creating a bracelet here with this particular well, I'd say unique pattern, because whilst I have a paper pattern next to me that I drew, I made it up more or less as I went along when I did it anyway. But the pattern helps. So it's a unique pattern. You could say it's exclusive to Zaragan Art. And if you're interested, I do a fair amount of jewellery. Most of it is chain style jewellery, chain work, although I do other things as well. You'll see some of the pictures, most of it is chain work on the left hand side, and I think there's perhaps a couple of other pictures in there as well, but not much at the moment in that reel. And if you want to take a more of a look at some of those pictures, you can see them in the Etsy shop as well, which is labelled there at the bottom left. zaraganart.etsy.com. Right, on this pass through here I can put some of the red on. And indeed you can buy some of the stuff as well if it's of interest. Some of the other pictures there are other art forms and crafts which are done on the stream as well. So you've got pyrography, which is the brown and looking pictures, scraper board, which is the white and black and white looking pictures, carving, which is the wood looking pictures, and punchcraft, which is the rug looking pictures. So a fair amount of different crafts there. And the media player has crashed. How surprising. Typical Yorkshire sarcasm there. Really, really bland. Right. No, I only want one bead, not two. Thank you. So this particular thing, which looks it has a brick pattern, is actually called peyote stitch. There are patterns called brick patterns, but they this isn't it. It's actually, the brick pattern is similar to this, it just goes in the opposite direction, which is so it says sewing it that way, you sew it that way, so the bricks go along rather than upwards, or vice versa. Right, although I'm going to do a mirror pattern here, and I've got it next to me, it's still going to be quite, I'll say it's a challenge to do this backwards. So anybody who's watching, do you do any craft work or artistry of any kind? Let us know, tell us what you do. Always interesting to see what other people do. Yeah, I think you always have to be careful with the loops. Sometimes they get caught, and if you don't notice them until later, it's a real pain in the neck, because you end up having to pull a lot of stuff out to fix the problem. And on this row, I want to go from there all the way to there. Okay, because with peyote stitch, you actually interleave the rows. It can be quite difficult to keep track of where you are, and also to follow on a chart, because of this sort of interleaved pattern. So it's kind of every other bead is actually the next one on the pattern, and looking here, so that red is next to that red, and it's sometimes that can throw you, the fact that they're literally beads that are next to each other in this vertical direction don't actually touch each other. Rihanna DeWitt, hello. I could say exactly the same thing. How are you doing? Nice to see you again. And another one after this, and then back. Okay. Oh, come here, bead. Thank you. What have you been up to? I know my streaming has been a little bit on and off because I have potentially got some issues to deal with at work, which has taken a lot of time up and made it so it's been quite difficult to keep up with the streaming schedule. I'm hoping they'll get resolved shortly, and I'll be able to get back to normal, whatever normal is. Is there such a thing for people who stream on Twitch, I wonder? That's a question for a psychologist, and I'm not a psychologist. Do you have to be normal to stream on Twitch? Right, there is... I'm trying to now mirror this over this side here, and I'm trying to work out, that's one, that's row two, that's row... Yeah, I think I missed one, but never mind. Do not catch, thank you. Regular patterns are a lot easier to do with this sort of thing once you understand where the pattern's going. With a regular pattern like a chevron pattern or a band or squares or whatever, it becomes easy. This is a little bit more of an awkward thing. It's not a regular pattern. So 1, 2, that's the one row, that's the second row, and I'm doing a third row, which means that yeah. So this kind of thing looks easy to do, and in some ways it is easy to do. The hard bit is working out where you are on this and what colours should go where. Putting the bead on the needle, yeah, that's easy enough to do. Keeping the right tension's a little bit more practice, and I'm not doing fantastically well on this. You can see that when you look at the whole thing, it varies in width a little bit. I might be able to adjust that a little bit when I've finished, but with a little bit of judicial stretching and twisting. I will start with a red a little bit earlier on this one's a bit, this one now. The first one I did of this type of beading had just straight diagonal lines on it from one side to the other. It actually used a slightly different bead as well, which was a lot easier to do. Once you got the diagonal line established, you just kept following the same pattern. It was quite easy to do. This one isn't. But there again, I said the other one that I did, by which I mean the other one, the only other one. I've only done one other of these. This is my second. So I'll probably use that as an excuse if I make a mistake doing this. Now then, do I want? Yes, I do. And then, after all, if you've only done one before and this is your second, if you make a mistake, well, you know, that's understandable, isn't it? Well, that's my excuse. I think I'll stick with that one. There again, it's only me that I have to make the excuse to, so. Okay, so what I'm doing here, these are a size 9/0 bead. If you know about such things, If you don't, what that basically means is if you put them end to end, you get 9 beads in an inch. And that gives you an idea of the size, of course. So they are 1/9 of an inch wide. So they're not the smallest of beads. Beads, well, generally 9, 10, 11. I believe you can even go to 15 per inch, which must be really tiny, but generally they get called seed beads. They're made out of, these at least, are made out of glass. And effectively, I won't say they come in hundreds of colours, but there's tens of different colours that you can choose from. I am sewing them together using fishing line actually, but it is fishing line which is used in this sort of trade, shall I say, because it's nice and strong. Wow, nice and strong. Fishing line, if you have any familiarity with fishing line, one of its parameters, one of the things it's measured by is the breaking strain. How much force you need to put on it to break it. And this is 4 pound, what they call 4 pound test line. So it will support 4 pounds in weight without breaking. And they don't guarantee anything past that. So it's braided, so it's I think it's 4 or 5 threads braided together to make the actual line itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And braided line is nice for this sort of thing because it bends quite nicely, it's flexible. And it doesn't fray particularly easily. Now I know I can break 4 pound test line, so I'm not yanking it too hard, but I am pulling it quite tight. You don't need to worry either if you think about wearing this sort of stuff as jewellery. 4 pound is actually quite a lot. That's about 2 kilos of weight. But that's on a single thread. When you're doing this, you're supporting weight over many threads, not just one. So you can actually put more than 4 pound of tension on there without a problem, and that is quite a lot to do anyway when you try and do that by hand. So. They are quite robust from that point of view. Not in any particular hurry tonight, so I'm doing this in quite a relaxed sort of fashion. I ought to speed up a little bit, get practice at working faster, but it takes a little bit more concentration to work faster, to make sure you get the needle going through the right place, and also that you don't end up with threads just loose, not in place, which makes it a little bit awkward. Now 4 down. Yeah, I did that wrong, didn't I, on that side? Okay. But I'm making this pattern up as I go along, so whilst I said I did it wrong because I wanted to do a mirror of the pattern I'd already done. It isn't quite. So from that perspective it's wrong. From the perspective of it looks okay, I'm going to leave it as it is. It's right. See, that's one of the useful things of being the artist or the crafter of things like this. The definition of what's right and wrong can change as you choose. And if I get really challenged, well, I just decided it looked better that way. The fact it was totally accidental, isn't it? So what? In fact, I probably suspect not many people would realise A, it was meant to be a mirror, and B, that it actually wasn't, if they looked at it. Now just keep doing these red beads for the poppy until we get down to where the centre of the poppy, the black centre, starts, and then I'll get some black beads out. Oops. So the only problem, this matting that I'm using here, it's not felt, but it's sort of a similar sort of idea, and it's designed to, well, basically so the beads don't roll around of their own accord as they might on a desk, something like that, and therefore go everywhere. It's also meant to be flexible so that you can actually sort of push down into the beads a little bit to be able to pick them up and not have them spring all over the place. But occasionally you do catch the needle tip in the material and it pulls, and the needle, this needle, it's a beading needle, so it's really flexible, so it goes through the beads and twists and turns with them. But occasionally, if you get a needle on the bead on the end and you catch it in the material, it flicks, and the bead will then shoot anywhere at high speed. By anywhere, it means it'll be somewhere within about 20 feet. So basically, you're not going to find them again. I'm starting to get down towards the point where I ought to think about tying off this thread and starting a new one. What I'll do, I think, is get halfway back across and then we'll change the threads. I don't like doing it at the end too much. quite hard to maintain, keep maintaining the tension at the end. It's going to be blue. Okay. Nope. Okay, I've just got the needle in another bead there. So what we'll now do is thread this needle down through some of the other beads on a diagonal. So first of all, take the thread away from the point, and I changed direction a couple of times on the diagonal because that adds a lot of resistance to the thread actually pulling out. Just change direction a couple of times, then we'll apply a knot and thread it through a few more beads and apply another knot. See where the flexibility of the needle comes in, really useful. There we go. Now what I have to do is take this down and go between two beads and then come back up between two adjacent beads. Nope. That's it. So I'm trying to make sure that I get around a thread that goes between beads. So I've got something to actually tie the knot around. So I don't just tie a knot in this thread, I'm actually tying it around an existing thread, which is what holds the knot in place. And right from there we'll go upwards a little bit, a couple of beads. Yeah, 3 will do, and we'll tie another knot. Doesn't need a great deal of knots to hold it in place. Mainly just the friction of the thread does that automatically. I've come out of there, so if I go down through there, so what's happening really is the oh bother, the knots are not fantastically important, to be honest. They just add a little bit of extra security. And I'm using clear line, and clear line against shiny glass beads. Not the easiest of things to see. Okay, so right, and now I'll cut that off, and we'll thread a new length of cord on. So we'll go with about 1, 2, 3 arm lengths. That sticky label back on there just to stop it unravelling. Squeeze the end. Flattens the end off, makes it easier to go through the eye of the needle like that. Which is really good because I can hardly see that eye. Now then, what I now do is do the same thing I just did, which is start by feeding the needle through 2 or 3 beads. Okay, those 2 will do. Pull everything through, leave myself a couple of inches just to get hold of whilst we tie this out. Change direction just to add a little bit more tension or friction. Come on, where are you? There we go. Now I'm just going to be a little bit careful that I don't wrap all this lot up in a knot, because there's about a couple of yards of thread here at the moment, just loose. Yep. Okay. And now I just work this thread back up to the bead that I was working on or from. So I can continue from where I left off. Now I need to get to that one up there. Tail, get out of the way. And you get out of the way as well. Just as soon as I get back up to where I need to be, I'll cut that starting thread off. And I want to be in that one there. I think I got that one, one more. Need to go over one more. No, you don't. You're not tying yourself in a knot. Yeah, over one more. You can't go out and come back through the same bead, so you've got to go across and then up one bead. So I've gone through, come out of this one here, and I need to go back through that one which is above it to go through that one and pick that one up as well. See if I can do all three in one go. Yep, I have. There is one thing about braided line as well, which is slightly different to monofilament, which is a single line, and that is if you roughen up one side of a monofilament, it tends to stretch in that direction, which means the cord tends to curl and twist, which happens more with a monofilament than it does with a braided line. I learned that with fishing. Right. That's cut off that starting thread. That's as tight as I dare pull it without possibly breaking the thread, and now I just carry on. Well, I've got 3 arm lengths of thread here. It's really amazing how quickly that disappears. And you suddenly find yourself not moving your arm hardly much at all as you're pulling the thread through. At least your right arm gets a lot of exercise doing this. That's assuming you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, I guess it's your left arm that gets a lot of exercise. So same if you're doing things like cross-stitching or needlepoint as well, your sewing hand gets a lot more exercise. Okay, on this row I'm going to pick up some black. So we actually start and form the black centre of the poppy. So now 1, 2, 3. How is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's not. It's the next row. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's the next row. Not this one. Next row. So I managed to tie myself in a knot there. And just working out where the mirror is for this. That's going to be. Okay, another 2 red. Right. Now I think this is the row in which I need the black. So we'll work that out in a second. Yeah, 3 red and then 3 red and then a black. One. Two. 3. Let's get some black out. Don't need many. And now the stream thinks I'm offline. Why, Twitch, do you think I'm offline? Where's my mouse? Ah, now you think I'm back online. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is cut the stream short tonight, and then I can get the camera out of my way. I keep banging my head on it and my neck's aching a little bit and my arm is, so I can have a bit more free movement than when I'm streaming and have a little bit of a rest. So I'm going to say thank you to anybody that's watching. Sorry, it's a little bit shorter than normal tonight, but hopefully I will be back tomorrow night. I encourage you to follow me on Twitter at @ZaragonArt for notifications when I go live, when I don't go live, what other bits and pieces to do with art and crafts. My own website, I'll point out, zaragonart.com, and the Etsy shop, zaragonart.etsy.com, and there's Facebook down there as well. If you are interested in any jewellery items, mainly chain work, but even things like this, you can contact me on Etsy, and at the moment Etsy has a coupon code available there if anybody's interested in any of the items that are on the shop. So I'm going to say thank you. I hopefully will be back tomorrow night from about 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours UTC or GMT, but from the White Rose County of West Yorkshire in the UK. I shall say bye for now.